in this video, I want to show you how to use the highlighting tool, one of my favorite features within Logos. And I want to show you how to use it, how to create highlights, and also how to search through your highlights. This is just absolutely fantastic information. So the first thing I want to do is not go to the highlighting tool. I actually want to go to the notes tool. So I'm going to open up the tool menu there. I'm going to type in notes, open it up. And the reason I'm doing this is because if you're not familiar with highlighting, this concept may not it may not make sense when you start getting into this if you tried to play around with it. But all of your highlights are going to show up as notes. Every highlight that you make creates a note. Now, if you can see on the left-hand side up here, in the notes tool, Logos has two different types. You've got your highlights and your notes. So if you create a note, you create a normal note, and there's other videos on how to do that. But every highlight you're going to make is going to end up being in this highlight type of note. Highlights are a type of note. And the reason I love this is it becomes the ultimate wide margin book or Bible with endless space to write what you want to keep track of your notes. It's a beautiful way to research. But right here, this is a highlight I've made. I'm going to open up that book, that resource, and you can see I've got that highlighting palette of a simple underline. But the reason I love this is with that highlight that creates this note is then I'm actually able to take notes on the highlight. So I could just write this, hi everyone, and then I've got that information. So I'm able to not only highlight, but write the information in the highlight that I want. I don't do that all the time, but I do it some of the time when I am studying, especially for sermon prep or preaching prep. But yeah, it creates an anchor. That's what a highlight is. It uses an anchor within a note, much like you would a Bible verse, and then you can write information. So that's the first thing. If you've struggled with figuring out highlights, where they go, they end up going in the highlight, in the tools, in the note tool. And so notice up here it says type highlights. And on the left-hand side, then you're able to filter out what you want to see. So I've got all the notebooks that I've created and use, and these are just highlights now because I have filtered that to just see highlights. You can also all the books. So if you want to see like this Why the Gospel book, these are all my highlights for full preview. These are all my highlights for that resource, which is an absolutely great way to see highlights that you've made in a book. So yeah, just a quick detour there before we get into making highlights, but that's where they're going to show up. So if you ever can't find something that you've highlighted or note, that it's going to be in the notes tool. So let me open up the highlighting tool. I'm going to go back to my tool menu. I'm going to type in the word highlight, and then I'm going to open up the highlighting menu. Now, this is probably going to look differently than yours unless you have somehow hacked into my account and copied my highlighting palette, which would be weird, but who knows. But Logos comes pre-filled with certain highlights. So solid colors, I can open that up and we get the different foreground, background type stuff. We get the emphasis markup, which I use these, and just absolutely fantastic. You've got highlighter pens, inductive precept, but then you're able to create highlights for certain things that you might want. And I like my highlights to stay long term. So I tend to set up a category and then we'll keep that category for a long time. I'm fairly slow to make a highlighting palette because they typically fall for me into broad categories. So notice I've got a Bible highlighter with different things that I use within that highlighting scheme. I also have a book highlighter. This is the one I use the most. And I might add different highlights within this, but this system has been pretty good where I have different points and a main point. And notice here I'll show you how to add some quick keys. So like with this agree and underline, for me is an agree. I click A and it's going to go straight into my assigned notebook. So yeah, I've got some different highlighting, and this video is not about visual filters, but you can actually create these and then use them in your visual filter documents to save a bunch of time. And I'm actually at the end show you how to do that. But so yeah, we've got this. So I want to create a new highlighting palette. Let's say you're brand new to using highlights, you want to. And so I'm going to create up here on the left hand side of the tool, new palette. And it goes right down to the bottom and it's untitled. I'm going to call this Preacher Prep. And then it goes alphabetical. So now it's right there where it says Preacher Prep, right under Personal Bible Study and right above Rule of Faith. And there's nothing in there. How do we get different palettes in there? Well, we're going to come over here to this arrow. This looks like a menu icon. I'm going to click on it and it's going to give you options. So we can either collapse that menu, which means it collapses the options. So let me open up, go back to this book highlighters. I've opened it up so you see all of them. Let's say I want to collapse it. I'm going to open that up, hit collapse, and then it's gone because it can be wonky if you've got all your different highlighters. It can be hard to read. So I'm going to go back down to Preacher Prep, click on this menu, and we can add a new style, which means we can add the things that I want to show you so you can customize how your highlights are going to work. You can duplicate this this highlighting scheme, which is really helpful if you have something that you want to use those same sort of highlights for, but in a different project. So like I've got some of the same colors that I have for like my Bible highlighter and my book highlighter are the same because I highlight my Bible and my books differently. So you can duplicate those menus and then rename them, which comes in handy when you're wanting to search highlights. You can search through specific kind of highlights. You can also rename this palette. So instead of Preacher Prep, you could name it whatever you want. You can delete the highlight when you're done with it. And then down here, you can say what notebook you want all the highlights in that notebook, or in that highlights in this palette. What notebook do you want them to go to? So I'm just going to, for right now, I'm going to use the Preacher Prep notebook. So anytime I make a highlight using my Preacher Prep highlighting palette, it's going to be stored as a note in that notebook. So I'm going to go ahead and do that so that everything now is within that notebook, which will be easy to find. So the first thing now that I want to do, that I've got my notebook set up, is I want to add a new style. And this is like the nuts and bolts of how to create the highlights that you want to make it look like you want, because you can do some pretty cool things with it. So the first thing I like to do is save it. And you're going to probably want to use a word that you can remember, but also that is the kind of thing that you want to highlight. Why do you want to highlight this information? So you might say main point, you might say agree, disagree, more to think about. There might be a theme within the things that you're reading that you want to create the highlight for. But I'm just going to type in main point right there, and then it is ready to go. And so that's the title. Underneath, we have a preview window. So you're going to be able to see as you make changes to what kind of highlighting you're wanting to do, you're going to be able to see it show up right here. And then when you're done, you're going to want to click save, because if you don't, I don't believe it saves that kind of highlighting. So then ask, what do you want this highlight to look like? Do you want it to change all your normal sort of information? Do you want it to be bigger, smaller? Do you want to change the actual font? Anything with the font, how do you want that to look? For the background, do you want no background? Do you want a solid color? Do you want a natural highlighter? So you can choose any of the colors they offer. You can say, hey, I want a natural highlighter in green. Notice what it does in the preview window. It's creating that palette for you. So let's say, hey, we don't want a background. Do you want to add any text effects? So you could say, no, I don't want text effects, or I want it to glow and I want it to be in the color purple, and so it's really going to stand out. Or you could say, I want an outline, and you can see, hey, it's now has an outline, or I want that outline in green. You could create a shadow effect in yellow. So really the options here aren't endless, but they are a lot. So you can say what kind of text effects you want. You can add borders, which is really where you're going to get if you want the kind of the underline stuff that we've had. And you can ask, do you want solid, no border, dash, dot, dash, dot? Do you want wavy, natural? And so let's say we want natural. We want, let's say, a double line. And we can do the line thickness and the line color. Really, you may not be able to get all this in one video. Play around with this tool and come up, think of something and come up and try it. Let me know if you like it or if you're struggling. But then down here, if you want to use lines, you're going to click on these lines to say what lines that you want. So sometimes I do this, and look at what look at how that shows up now over main point. It's got lines on each side because I've got these 3 lines in double, natural in that green color. Let's say we want to make it a little bit bigger. Notice now that it's got double lines like that. Or let's say we want to make single with dash. Now it's going to do that. So it's going to create the kind of highlighting that you want. And let's say we want none of that. We're going to get rid of all those. But that's where you create like a simple underline right there in the borders and lines. The image is where you can actually put an image, and you can either choose a file, or you could you can choose the ones that they have here. So right there, I could do that. And you can choose where you want it. Do you want it in the left margin? Do you want it right before what you highlight, at the center of it, after? Where do you want this image to go? How do you want it to look? Do you want it to be where, once you choose where, do you want it to be normal or above, below, superscript, subscript? What color do you want it? And what size do you want it? And I've used in my Bible, I will sometimes use these with visual filters. In fact, I think I use this one for God the Father, just as an easy way when I'm in the text, I'm able to see that's in there. And I think I had to play around with it and make it smaller so that it didn't show up large within the Bible. But yeah, you can create what sort of image you want. And notice here in the right there, it's going to show up as a crown right before main point. And so, yeah, you can choose an image. You can also insert text. I use this one quite a bit. And you're going to have a lot of options. Do you want to insert the text before, after, above, below? So let's say we're doing main point and I want to have the text as a main point. I'm going to just type in MP. And it's going to, right there, notice here, it says MP before main point. Well, I find that kind of hard. I would not be able to pick that up. One of the things I love is Logos has this capsule option. When I click on that, look at what it does. It goes straight and it makes it MP in a blue circle. Now that to me sticks out. This is actually one I use for main points in books. And you're able to change the color by going right here, and it will change the color in that capsule to whatever you want. I use blue most often, so I'm going, ooh, I like that color blue, so I will keep that. But yeah, you're able to come in here and change the text. You could change the font of the text and have that capsule wherever you want it. You can also add labels, which we're actually not going to go into in this video because it takes that requires a whole nother video about how to use labels. And some people use them, some people don't. It's more complicated. And if this is complicated enough, then we just want to stay right here. But so we've got now this main point with the MP capsule. Let's say I want to add more to this highlighting palette. You don't have to choose just one. So let's say I want to change the font styling to be that same blue. So now notice, because I've changed that font styling, not only is the main point, the text in blue, but you have this MP capsule right there, MP capsule. So we could also change this to have a background like that. So now we've got the MP capsule, main point in that kind of yellow color, and then MP in blue. It's really going to stand out. So what I want to do is I want to save this. And notice now under the Preacher Prep highlighting palette, we have that main point in all the things that we just created. And you can create one as simple or as complex as you want. Now I want to open up a book and let's put this into action. So I'm just going to open up this commentary on 1st and 2nd Chronicles. And remember, we have saved these to the notebook for Preacher Prep. So I want to show you what happens when we highlight this. So I want to, let's say I want to take this information and I want to, you will have some highlighting options here that you can go to when you right click on it. So that's something to look for when you right click. I believe those update based upon what you used last. Well, I'll actually try that out. I should have tried that before I made this video. But when I've got this highlighted, I'm just going to click on main point. And notice what happens when I had that highlighting palette open. Logos put this highlight, just like we created, on the text. Isn't that cool? Now let me open up my note tool, because I actually want to come down to my Preacher Prep notebook, which is where we created, and I'm going to create it up there at the top. Look at here, right there. That is the note that we just created. That's the highlight, and you can create notes right there, and it will stay there forever. And so, yeah, that in a nutshell is how you create and utilize notes. But we can actually make it a little bit quicker. I'm going to, instead of having the note tool open, I'm going to look where it says main point. I'm going to click on the options, and you can add a shortcut key. And these are, if there's nothing by the letter or number, it means it's available to you. So I use these quite a bit. So you're limited to the alphabet and the 1 through 9. So let's say I've got C open, and when I click on that, now everything that when I have selected right here, so I'll select this sentence. I don't know what it says, but I'm sure it's interesting. And then you won't be able to see me do it, but on my keyboard, I'm going to type the letter C. I'm going to hit it. Logos creates that highlight, and then it will automatically create that note highlight in the note tool. And what's great about this is I can close my highlighting palette and do the same thing. So I'll just highlight a little bit, hit C, and then notice over here in my note tool that highlight was made. So I don't want all of these, so I'm going to delete these selected notes so that we don't need it. Actually, I'm going to create one because I want to show you how to search for these. So I'll create C. And so now I've got that highlighting. It's going to be in my notebook there. So let me get rid of everything. That's a brief overview. If you have any questions about creating them or you're getting stuck, please reach out to me, put a note on one of these videos, or go to the website preacherprep.com. But what's great about this is you can actually search your highlights. So when you get your system complete and you're trying to search through like keyword and stuff, I'm going to open up my books. This is all my books. I'm going to just type in the word highlight. And then I've got to scroll down to where it says highlight keyword. And what it's going to do is it's just going to add a colon. So you can type in the word highlight and then colon. These are all my highlighting palettes. So what I want to do is I actually want to find the one that we just made, which is Preacher Prep. And it will show up here somewhere. Maybe I just need to, yeah, highlighting Preacher Prep right there. And then I just hit enter, and that is the highlight that we just made. So you're going to be able to search for it. Let me show you how to search keyword within highlight. So you can just have your highlight show up like that. But let's say I want to find all the times that have talked about baptism. So I'm going to type the word baptism. I'm going to put in all caps, and then I'm going to type in the word highlight, colon. It's going to bring all my highlights open. I'm going to look for the one where it says agree. So right there, Logos now has searched anytime I've highlighted in this highlighting palette of book highlights agree. So it's not going to highlight my Bibles. But it's looking for the word baptism in all those highlights. And so this is going to save you a lot of time in your research when you're highlighting for things, sermon illustrations, trying to remember a quote, you remember one of the words. The big thing to remember in this is you're going to want to remember what word, have that spelled correctly, use this in all caps, and then have the highlight. And I think you can even just add a asterisk right there. And now, instead of just using, make that bigger for you, instead of searching a specific highlighting palette, this is actually searching in all my highlights the word baptism. So I've highlighted that word 107 times in 36 different places and 21 resources. So yeah, really, I love highlighting for this fact. It's absolutely fantastic. So let me show you one other thing before we go. It is visual filters, and just that you can use them in visual filters. So I'm going to go to my document menu. I'm not going to explain in this video what visual filters are. I've got videos on visual filters, I think, or someone does. If not, let me know, I'll make them. But right here, you're able to go to our books, all text in your books, and we could say, I want to type the word love, or I want to highlight anything with when the word love comes up. And then we can actually come down here, and the highlighting palette that we made will be here under Preacher Prep. And so now, anytime that the word love is used, let me just go to love. It should. Sometimes it takes a minute for it to show up. Nope, right there. That visual filter now works every time the word love is used in my library. I've got a lot of books. I'm gonna delete this one. But you can create a highlighting palette as a visual filter just like that when you want to come across words that are important to you in any book or a specific book. Really, really helpful feature. Part of why I love Logos is that sort of thing. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to delete this document, get rid of this. And so, yeah, so that is a, let's see, 23-minute rundown on highlights. I hope it has been helpful. If you have any questions, I wasn't clear, please let me know. I'll be happy to create another video and help those who need it. So I hope you all enjoyed this. Until next time.